You're so far away. It does feel like that sometimes when we're feeling separated from the divine, right?
Yeah.
It just feels like the divine is just so far away. So we started last week talking about the three faces of God. And we worked with, last week, we were talking about the infinite allness, which is the third person. So today, we're talking about the beloved. So when we're talking about faces, because we talked about this, so I'm just going to do a little brief recap of last week, because we have new folks in the room. When we're talking about faces of God, here in Unity, that can be a little challenging, because we don't believe in an anthropomorphized deity that's sitting somewhere that would actually have three faces, right? That's not what we actually believe. But we do believe in something that is larger than just this, like my physical body that is operating. So if we think of it as the three perspectives of the divine, or the 3 points of view of the divine, that might be helpful so you don't get hung up. So the first perspective is first person. It's the I perspective. And as you can see from this photo, it is a very personal, subjective perspective. For some people, this will be the most amazing experience in the world. Like, I love heights. This would be so much fun for me. My wife, on the other hand, would not be having a good time. Same point of view, but different internal experience. So that's the first person, yes? Second person is where we each are in our own little subjective little world, and yet we reach out and we make a connection. We make a connection. And in that connection, something else arises. Some other awareness becomes present for us. And that's the you. So all the songs we've been singing today, if you've noticed, are you songs. They're about God as you, because that's the face that we're working with today, that point of connection. And then we have the third face of God. And that's where God is an it, or a he, or a she, but it's something we can look at and study and contemplate and see and discuss and talk about. Third person is very comfortable for us here in Unity. We like the idea of God as divine principle. God as love, as joy, as beauty, as harmony, right? And we also are very attached to God as me, the I am. So we get three faces of God, and some of the names that we can use for the first person would be the I am, or the silence, or the presence, or Christ Buddha consciousness. That's where the I am is operating. It's where our sense of small self completely dissolves away. And all we are is realizing the divinity that is who we truly are. Do you feel the power in that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in third person is how we get into that space, because third person is how we recognize it. How we actually recognize the divine. We see it, we name it. That's very important in Unity teaching, that we name, and then what do? Claim. So that's the recognizing and the realizing. I am naming it. I see the joy, I see the love, I see the beauty, I see the harmony, and it is me.
Amen.
Yes. So then we have the second face of God. And this is where it gets messy. Gotta be honest with you. Because it's about relating. It's about being in the world. It's about how we actually show up in time and in space. It's about the fifth principle in Unity teaching, which is where we actually live into the truth principles. So everything that we understand from third person, I know the divine, and everything we understand from first person, I know it's me, we then get to show up in the world with it. And sometimes it feels so far away, doesn't it? It just feels far away. So for some of us, this is the beloved. The Sufi understanding of second person would be called the beloved. All those Rumi poems about the beloved. We, Buddhism and in Unity would call it perhaps the mirror self. It is seeing the divine of yourself in others, the reflection that everything is a mirror. And then we also have traditions that actually use a second person deity. They are praying to Buddha or Jesus or Kuan Yin or to any of the bodhisattvas. That is what that second person relationship is. All of it ultimately is about integrated wholeness. There's no wrong way to understand the divine, but we all operate with these three perspectives. We all have been brought up, every culture, every language in the world that is known has an I, a you, and an it. Isn't that amazing? That's universal. I think that's super cool, that's universal. I really love that. So the goal of the three faces of God in terms of understanding it is we all have our strengths. We all have the places we orient ourselves that are comfortable. And then we also perhaps have the places where we might have some wounding, where it feels uncomfortable, where we're like, I don't know about that. Ultimately, we want to be able to embrace all of it, because guess what? There's only one thing happening. There's only one thing happening. So the practices that support the different faces, so in the realization of the I am, meditation is the practice that supports our understanding that we are the thing itself. And in recognition, in the third face, it is about contemplation. It's about looking and seeing and being present to the beauty, the grace, the love that's all around us. Most practices combine some form of contemplation and meditation. When you're meditating and they say follow the breath, that's an it. You are contemplating on the breath. And that is guiding you into a realization that is beyond your mind, beyond contemplation. Is everybody still with me?
Yeah.
All right. So now we get into the you. We get into relating to the divine as you, and the practices that support this are prayer and service. Prayer and service, because it's about how we actually, literally, are showing up in the world, in time and in space. Oh, and you know, for some of us, it really does look this way. This is an avenue, right? That aspect that wants to pray to a God outside of us. Anybody in here, I mean, there are some people, I myself, right? I've had my moments where literally what comes out of my mouth is, oh God, why me? What am I doing in that moment? All of a sudden, I am praying to whatever that God is outside of me. There's something within me that wants to relate to the divine in a way that I can actually understand and seek comfort. Now, in unity teachings, we understand Jesus and the Buddha to be master teachers. That is our relationship with them. And that brings us to the fact that the thing that actually connects us all is love. Love is the connection between all of us. That thing that happens when two people or more come together. Love is the thing that is anchoring all of that interaction. But honestly, we all know that sometimes it's really hard to love some people. Really, really hard. Can I get an amen on that? Amen. There are just some people that it is so challenging. And that's why this particular face of God is the messiest one. It's the messy one. And that may be, exactly, because we're all one, right? So there are times when it's very easy, right? There are those people in our lives where it's very, very easy to know the beloved, right? That's us on our wedding day. I was actually almost 4 years ago, like last week, right? And then you have family maybe. These are my nieces and my nephew, right? And your connection to them is easy and clear in some way. And this is my boy Freeway, who is no longer on this plane of existence, but he is still here, right? He is still here. So we understand our love and our connection through our pets. Can you feel that? It's through everything. And one of the reasons why pets are so cool is because that unconditional love is so clear. It's less messy with the cat. It's less messy with the dog than it is with the human beings in your life. Right? So let's talk about the mirror self. The mirror self is what we understand. So we know that whatever it is that I'm seeing out there, the good, the bad, and the ugly, whose is it?
Mine.
It's me, man. It's all me. Because I can only see what I know. I can only recognize what I know. So the mirror self is an opportunity for us to actually see ourselves. So we're actually really wired for connection. We are wired for belonging. We are wired to actually want to connect and be and with other people. So in primates, there are the mirror neurons. Have you guys heard about these?
Yes.
So mirror neurons are actually a neurological system in our body that when we actually do something, they get fired. But if we watch someone doing the same thing, guess what? They fire in us. So they fire in us if we're doing it, and if we observe someone doing it, they're actually firing. It's why athletes can go into a meditative state and watch themselves doing whatever activity they're going to be doing, and it is as if they are doing it themselves, because their mirror neurons are firing. You watch somebody dance and it makes you smile, makes you want to get up and dance. Mirror neurons that are firing. We go to the movies and we all sit there and we get caught up and sucked into what we're seeing on the screen. Guess what? Mirror neurons. They're firing within us so that we are innately wanting to have as close an experience as we can with other people. We are built for empathy. We are literally built for empathy and compassion. But it does ask something of us. So when we're talking about the mirror, I love this picture, right? So we're there, and what we see in the mirror are all these aspects of ourselves. Anyone who's taken the shadow class with me, you know what I'm talking about. This is all aspects of ourselves, and some of them look like us, and some of them look even more amazing than we could imagine, and some of them are like, I don't want to be that. But we are all of it. That's the opportunity that arises with the second face, with the beloved. So, in healthy dynamics and healthy relationships, what gets reflected back to us is the truth of who we are. This is our divinity being reflected back to us. And yet we've all been in relationships that do not support us, where what gets reflected back to us is somehow smaller and more limiting than the truth of who we are. Now that happens with our understanding of the divine too. We sometimes carry around ideas about the divine that actually make us feel small. Some of it comes from our childhood. We heard something. We heard and embraced and accepted some piece of shame, some piece of blame, some piece of not enoughness, the idea of being a sinner. And that stuff is moving through us. And if what gets reflected back to us is triggering that, then we actually feel small. We don't feel supported. So the tension, or the challenge, of second person is if you throw yourself completely into the beloved, into the other person, they are my everything, you can fall into codependence. Because that's where the other person's perspective of you has more weight and more value than your own perspective of yourself. Now that happens with people, and it happens with our understanding of God too, right? What we're looking for is a relationship that's based on devotion, that's based on the givingness, that's based on the compassion and the empathy, that's based on our capacity to open up our heart. So the second face of God is often called big heart, and I love that, because it asks us to move out of our mind, out of that third person, and into a space where, quite honestly, we're very vulnerable. We're very, very vulnerable in that space. Whatever you love, you are. I love that. Whatever you love, you are. It ties into our understanding here at Unity that what you place your attention on grows in consciousness. What you love, you are. What you are connecting to, how you're connecting to it, has a direct impact on who you are and how you show up in the world. So how do we anchor this? How do we anchor this idea that what is being reflected back to us? Because, folks, stuff's getting reflected back to you all the time. That's happening all the time. So how do we enable ourselves to see ourselves in the greatest way, in the biggest picture of possibility? So we have some very strong practices in Unity that will support us with that. So affirmative prayer. So prayer is one of the practices for second person, but affirmative prayer specifically is incredibly powerful because it actually taps all three of the faces. So in affirmative prayer, we are recognizing the infinite. We are realizing that it is me and that it is you. And then in that intimate space, we are sharing and knowing and seeing the truth of someone else. And all of that is not happening in our minds alone. Ernest Holmes used to call it the fire in the belly, which I love. That's the space where we are naming and claiming and seeing and activating the truth of who we all are. And again, sometimes it's not easy because the person that's showing up in front of us is showing up in a way that we want to say, oh, no, 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 that's not divine. Oh, no, no, no. All that judgment comes up. All that criticism comes up. All that stuff, which we think is really about them, but who is it really about? Right here. It's really about who we are. And then the last piece is sacred service, because that's where it really gets messy. Right? Because you're showing up in sacred service, and you're actually showing up hands, active, doing something. And there's a big difference between helping and serving. Big difference. Helping implies that the person cannot do it on their own without you. Helping implies that you have something they do not have. Do we know? We don't believe that. That's not truth. We know that each of us has everything that we need. Now, we can support people in realizing that about themselves. And that is what sacred service is about. So when we show up in sacred service, it's not about us. The focus is really on the beloved. The focus is on seeing and knowing and being the most compassionate that you possibly can be. Even when they're pressing that last nerve. Right? Because that's the practice. It's the practice. And the more we recognize it, the more we're able to show up as compassion. We're able to actually be. Can you feel how we become the beloved and we become the lover simultaneously? Everything sort of dissolves into just this perfection of you are me and I am you. I had a quote from Rumi, which I don't think I left in, which is, I love myself, I can love you. If I love you, then I can love myself. So your task is not just to look for love. That's not, love is right here. Love is present. Look around you, turn to the person next to you. They're right there. The love's right here, right? You can feel it. It's already here. It's not something you have to go out and find. It's not something that you have to earn. It's something that is actually yours already, fully, completely. The thing is, are you allowing it to show up? What barriers have you put in place in your own heart, what limitations have you placed on how you can show up as love, as compassion? What have you decided is like, oh no, that's a no-go area? We all have them. We all have the places. They make us uncomfortable. There is no place where God is not. No place where God is not. Can you see it in everyone and everything around you? Can you hold that and then activate it? Not just recognize it and contemplate on it and say, but actually step into an active engagement and connection with it. One of the challenges in New Thought is that we spend a lot of time internal. We spend a lot of time right in here, which is awesome and great. But we are called then to show up as that actually in the world, in real time, in real space. We have to show up as that. And sometimes we don't feel like we have everything we need to show up that way. But guess what? The mirror, it will be revealed to you through the other. Don't cut yourself off from what is possible for you. This is the greatest growth area, is this second person, me interacting with the world, with each of you. So I love this quote from Myrtle Fillmore, and I'm just going to close with this. As the sunshine brings out the colors and beauty, so the light of love brings out Christ's virtues in people. So love, love, love. That's my invitation for you. Whatever your relationship is with that second person face of God, whether it's something you're completely comfortable with, whether you light candles and are able to sort of surrender into whatever that second person is with joy and with ease. If you're more uncomfortable with that idea, that you see it as a threat to yourself, because that's what happens. The tension with second person is you don't want to surrender because, oh no, where's my sense of self? But you know which part of you is worried about losing its sense of self? The little self. The little self is the one that's worried about losing its sense of self. Do you think your big understanding of yourself as the I am is worried about losing itself? Not at all. In fact, it is through the face of the other that the I am is able to be revealed more fully. All three of these faces work together. So if one piece isn't quite so strong, that's the muscle you want to build, because that will transform your practice, your experience, your life. So love, love, love. Let's take this into our time of meditation.